Welcome, everyone. Glad to see you all here for our 2024 D25 Strategic Planning Committee's Town Hall. To begin, I'd like to just introduce you to our committee this year. And for those that may not know, or those that are watching the recording here, every year, half of the membership rolls off and a half of membership comes on. So it's a 2-year commitment in the committee itself, to a 2-year term. If you look at the top row here, myself, Charlie, Marquita, and Samantha were members last year. Emily, John, Michelle, Marion, and Alex are members this upcoming year. We're all a part of the same plan for this year, but obviously the first 4 of us will end our term in May next year, and there'll be 4 others that join the committee, or if we remain at 9 members, which I think we will. So that's just a little insight into the 2-year term, but I wanted to introduce everyone, and I believe everybody's here except Marion. Marion to make it. She's feeling ill. So I hope she feels better soon. We're going to go through some of the purpose and expectations of our town hall, give a little history of the SPC, our website, show you the interest form, how you can get involved, and then share a little bit about the plan itself, review it, and give you an opportunity to provide feedback, suggestions, have some engagement, and then the most important thing, what's in it for me, or what's in it for you, what's in it for us as a district? Why is the SPC an important aspect to District 25's growth and success? And then we'll end in an open forum. Purpose and expectations, first, to share all things SPC, our history, again, the website, plan review, and then most importantly, provide ways that you can get involved. Request and receive your feedback. We're going to be doing that throughout the section and then also at the open forum. And for those that are here in our live forum here, we will stay a few minutes after when we conclude promptly at 7:30 to catch any other questions that we may not have been able to answer throughout the session itself. This is a forum that we want to hear all of you. We want to share some insight into the committee, the plan itself, but we want to hear from you. We use those opportunities to grow this mindset of the strategic planning committee. You can raise your hand in the chat here, or put a question in the chat, raise your hand, use that raise your hand function if you have any questions. When I was thinking of this town hall, I thought of planting a tree. And I think it's very appropriate to what the SPC has been going through since its inception in the beginning stages of 2021. We chartered in 2021, 2022, the first year, 22, 23, second year. Now we're in our 3rd year, 24, 25. We're still in that growth stage. You can see that tree as it continues to grow. And I was thinking about when you plant a tree, if any of you planted a tree before, whether it was a small tree or the seed, did you just go put the seed in the backyard, put some dirt on it, throw a little water on it, and then leave it all summer and hope that it grew? Probably not, or it would have not turned out. Well, it's the same here. Anytime we're dealing with something new, or we're trying to grow and mature something, it takes water, it takes care, it takes stability, it takes extra time and effort to make sure that we progress and that we make the right decisions and we provide the right thought and teamwork around it to make sure that it has an opportunity to grow into what it's meant to grow into. And so when I look at that tree, that diagram of that tree as it grows in the water, I think of all of us and how we can help that tree grow with our time and our effort and our feedback and our suggestions and ideas. And I look at like our past officers and our members. Some are here today: Chris Ranieri, Jamie Pickering, Bonnie Stroman. We all miss Bonnie. Denise McConnell, Nifa Fluid, Kelsey Dean, Mike Kinzer, Ross Moore, Sitman Maddox, and then our current members and officers that I've already introduced to you. And then as input and feedback that we've received from so many, I see like you here today, Jody, and so many across the district that have provided us input. We thank you all. And we feel like that we're in a really good stage of the growth process for the SPC. So where are we on the website? You're going to see throughout this presentation, there are QR codes on the bottom right-hand side of most every slide, not every slide, but you will see it quite often throughout the presentation. You can use that to get to it. I've also posted the SPC link in the chat itself, but we're going to just visit it real quick. I'm going to click this hyperlink here. We're going to go ahead and go to the page. And if you haven't read the plan itself and the charter, it's here for the entire district to see. If you look on the related links under the adopted 2024-2029 strategic plan, you can click and access it and read it for yourself. It has a lot of really good information, and we feel like it would even provide, obviously, a lot more insight into our purpose and what we're trying to accomplish through this committee. Provides our members our overview and our deliverables, but it also gives the very important, I'll just enlarge this a little bit for you, very important putting in your name, your email, your phone number, and then volunteering either to be part of a subcommittee in club growth, membership growth, education and training, revenue funding. Maybe you're interested in being part of a 2-year commitment that starts in May. You can volunteer to be part of it here, or maybe you don't have the time, but you have a lot of suggestions. You want to provide us some comments. You want to help us with the knowledge that you've gained through the years, or even your very short time with Toastmasters or in the district, on how we can operate a little more efficiently. We can transition from one year to the other more quickly. We can have more repeatable processes. This is your opportunity here to provide those to the committee so that we can work on that. Maybe we come up with a subcommittee for those very ideas that you brought to us. Going back to our presentation, we're now going to get into the meat of the plan itself. And in order to make sure that we stay on time, I will be timing this as well. We have 4 sections that we're going to go through. So at green, we'll be 7 minutes into it, 8 yellow and 9 red. And that's the indication of that section to work on transitioning to the next section, and then until finally Michelle will be handing it back to me, and we'll go into open forum and we'll just open it up for all questions. But we're going to provide some engagement along the way in each of these sections, so you don't just have to hear us talk the entire time. And luckily for you, you don't have to hear me talk the entire session. You get to hear from different ones here on the committee. So the first one is Charlie and John. They'll go over club growth and retention, and then Samantha and Alex, some membership growth. Education training will be Marquita, and as I mentioned, Marion won't be here tonight. Marquita will be going over that, and then revenue funding will be Michelle. So take it away, Charlie and John.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're going to be talking about club growth, and I want to give a bit of context about why we are looking at this at all. The district has several major goals every year, and the 2 highest order of those goals are relating to the mission of D25, education and membership growth. Why do we know they're important? Because they're called out in the Distinguished Club Program. So the district's mission is about growing new clubs and supporting all clubs to achieve excellence. And there's different ways to deal with that. I'm going to be talking at this moment about membership. And in this particular case, there are actually two ways that membership growth can happen. One is that we just simply add members to our existing clubs. Another is that we add new clubs. And of course, if you add a new club, then you automatically add at least 20 new members. So TI has an expectation that the district is going to add new clubs every year, and it's built into the district's distinguished club program or distinguished district program. I'm going to be talking about the new club, adding new clubs part of that, because that is the function of the club growth team. Every year, the CGD team begins with a new stretch goal that expects a certain number of new chartered clubs. And of course, this adds large numbers of members all at a time, all at once. Go to the next item. It is the CGD team's role to manage club growth, and I'm talking about the number of clubs here, not the individual clubs within. That's a different part of the process. The club growth team consists of a club growth director and a number of subcommittee chairs, each of whom have various related tasks related to chartering new clubs and coaching clubs at risks. And there are a number of those which are defined in detail in the current version of the SBC document that Bobby talked about a minute ago. But also, next slide. Actually, this slide, go back to that one. Also, each new team that starts at election starts with some big challenges. So new teams usually start from scratch with new people doing new things. And the team has new members who often have inadequate knowledge of a fairly detailed set of specialized tasks relating to chartering clubs. Unfortunately, they drop into a market which has already been running through the year, and so there are various potential new clubs in the pipeline, and the new team has to get up to speed very quickly to deal with the challenges of chartering those new clubs. Next slide. The problem is not dealing with this quickly is that it breaks the momentum of those clubs, and it can actually lead to opportunities lost. So how do we improve it? Well, we can do it by repeatable processes that educate and transition each new team. So one thing we can do is ensure effective transitions that get done between the election of a new team and the beginning of that team's new term. A lot of times that may only happen after the fact, after the term has started. And by then, you may be behind the eight ball on all of the work that needs to be done. You can also create useful documentation about all of the details and the skills and that specialized knowledge that people need to know what to do, how to do it. And that should be available throughout the year so that people can go directly to it, maybe even before they get elected. And we can create specialized training. Some of it's online, some of it might be in video, workshops that's available all year so that people can go to it frequently as questions come up about how to deal with those things. Next slide. So this is the CGD goal as part of the writing, the new set of writing we're going to be doing to the SPC plan for this year is to carry on the work that started when Chris and I think Kelsey is on here, yes, was part of all of that. Bobby and I worked on it this last year and provided with a new set of information that's part of that. You can see in the plan. But it's also work that requires collaboration between the SBC and the trio in order to find effective methods. And so that's the area that we can use your contributions for and help on the team. And at this point, I will pass this to John, who will conduct some question and answers and discussion.
Thank you so much, Charlie. I really appreciate it. I'm honored to be a part of the Strategic Planning Committee this year and excited to see what we do. I do want to open it up to any questions or thoughts anyone may have on how we can achieve the mission of club growth and retention this year in District 25.
So I guess I have a question. So,
Okay.
and I don't know if, John, if you'll answer this or if Charlie will answer it, but so during the first part of the presentation, there was a lot of talk about growing new clubs, but I didn't see much mention about retaining new clubs. So are we focused only on growing new clubs and not about retaining the clubs? I know you mentioned, Charlie, that there was a separate part of it, but it doesn't, I mean, is that part of our plan? Is that part of the things that we're trying to develop further on how?
Well, I think you could say that the club retention is kind of no, it is part of there, and it's defined in the new version as well. And it's recognized that club retention doesn't relate to chartering new clubs. Right. It is a separate piece of the club growth team, but you can almost say that it's a bit of a parallel between the membership growth, the club growth part of the SPC plan and the membership growth, which has to do with adding members, and you could almost say that, while it supports that, retaining members is an analog to let's add some more members to the club. So I think we during this team, we will begin to this year we'll flesh out more about how that will relate directly to club growth.
Okay. So in the original plan, there was some goals of being net zero first couple of years and then gaining new clubs, which had to do with both retention and new clubs. So that's where I was curious on how that still fit into the plan. So I didn't know if, John, if you were answering that question or Charlie, but thanks, Charlie.
One of the goals for this year's version is that we are going to flesh out the whole net zero definition. That's something that Jesse wanted us to do.
Okay.
We didn't actually get to it, but we put in there that we were going to work on it this year.
Gotcha. Okay. Thanks.
Yes. Yeah, we did add it, and hopefully we were going to, as Charlie mentioned, push that further into the plan this year. And some of the things that we added in the club growth, just to add, was more related to the program support and the mentoring and the extension chair. That also obviously has the club quality or the retaining of clubs in there as well. But our goal is to have each and every section of club growth within there so that the transitioning from one team to the other can occur, and there's not any parts left out.
All right, thanks.
Yep. Great question, Chris. Thank you so much. At this time, I would like to hand it over to Samantha Watt and Alex Conrad to go over their portion of the strategic plan.
Thank you, John.
Most welcome.
Slide, please, Bobby. Cool. There's our team. So, hey everyone, I'm Samantha Watt. I'm incoming PRM, and I'm introducing our membership growth and retention subcommittee, which consists of myself, Emily, Alex, and Savannah Miller, AD. If any of the topics that we are about to review interest you, we love more members on the committee, and there's always that QR code, so let us know. And the next slides, I'll share part of our plan and focuses for this year, year ahead, and we'll work on boosting membership engagement, tailoring resources, and ensuring everyone gets the most out of their journey as a Toastmaster. So if you'll click for me. Awesome. For membership growth and retention, the membership growth and retention subcommittee recommends the following focuses for this year. This is the plan we laid out last year. Assessing opportunities is that first section. Conduct a comprehensive analysis of programs and initiatives within Toastmasters International and D25 and gather that in a reasonable location, gather and analyze data from member feedback and TI benchmarks, prioritize what we deem high impact initiatives to boost member engagement and organizational growth. I like to call that, is the juice worth the squeeze? And I'm going to skip over training because I realized I included that, and that's going to be covered in another section. So we can click and get right to quality member experiences. Thank you. Form a committee to review and update resources on the D25 website. Our web team works really hard on that and knowing what's going on there, but it could be more organized. There could be more archives, and there's opportunities to make it more navigatable for folks. Ensure early updates and provide training on utilizing district website resources, making sure people know where to access it and what is there. And training area directors specifically to effectively navigate and use the website. So that's where we start with member experiences, making sure everything is easy to find, understood, and resources are always available to everyone at their convenience. Focusing on these areas will enhance member engagement, provide relevant and impactful resources, and ensure quality experiences for our members. Next slide. This is our 2 and 3 year plan, or just highlights of it. I'm not going to go too deep into it. But looking further into the plan, these years revolve around improving overall communication. That's a big focus, I know, for myself this year as PRM, through direct messaging, passive messaging, and marketing. What does that look like for us, and what does that look like going forward? And improving overall communication in general. Further defining the quality member experiences. What do our members want from us as a district, and defining that. Enhancing member support in general and defining what that would mean. Acknowledge the district's diverse membership and customize our actions, our communications, our trainings, etc., to cater to different demographics and interests, and know what those demographics and interests are. Maybe surveys, maybe benchmarks. What does that mean? What does that look like? Shifting from a kind of one size fits all approach to our to everything that we do, and really tailoring it for the member. And yeah, that's our beyond. In the next slide. So I will now pass the lectern to my friend Alex, and we have just a brief discussion to discuss member growth and retention. Alex.
Might help if I do that. Thank you, Samantha. I do want to thank everybody to allow me to be on this committee. I was invited to be here. I was invited when it first got started, but let's get started. I've got 4 questions that I'd like to ask. Anybody can jump in. What are you doing to get people, to get your members, or to get members to come into your club? Now, we know we're doing open houses and we're doing this medley and the beat the clock and those type of things. But what are you individually doing to bring in members individually out of the norm? Any suggestions?
I can take a stab at
Kelsey?
that. So I am in a corporate club, and we have recently, as a company, had an influx of new employees. And each and every member of our club has taken it upon themselves to talk to other people, whether it be new team members because they've just joined the company or people changing positions and just coming to their teams. Everybody they meet or talk to at work, they talk to about Toastmasters.
Awesome. Thank you. Anybody else? I'm gonna
Joyce
go to
looks
the
like-
second question.
Joyce has got her
Oh.
hand raised.
Joyce? Hello, Joyce. So my second question is, what are you doing to retain your membership? So the point is, so when you see somebody that's not coming in on a regular basis, what are you doing to try to retain your members?
Oh, I
Joyce
guess
is locked up.
I'll answer that.
Go ahead, Chris.
I mean, one of the things that we do, so first of all, I think quality meetings are a big way of winning members and keeping members. That's going to keep them coming to it. If they know they're getting
Absolutely.
something out of it, then I think they'll continue to come. But if they stop coming, then I think the best way is to engage them, whether that's your VP membership or whether that's your president, a quick phone call or a quick email saying, hey, we missed you. Here's the things that are going on. Is there anything we can do to help get you back to the meetings? And you may find out that they've got personal issues or work issues that are precluding them from coming, and you can kind of work some things out. Sometimes they just forget.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anybody else? Once? What are you doing to get them, to keep them engaged? Meaning your members. What are you doing to get your members engaged and keep them engaged in the club? Now, Chris has already talked about having a well-run club, but it goes beyond that. What are you doing to get them engaged? Anybody?
Can I
Go
speak
ahead,
to
Jody.
that?
Go ahead,
Sure.
Jody.
Well, one thing I do to keep my members engaged and to make sure that we have good meetings is that if someone, and I'm the VP Ed, so if someone hasn't given a speech in a little while, I'll get in touch with them and say, hey, I haven't heard a speech from you lately, and I would really like to. I really loved that last speech you gave on whatever it was. Do you need help with a project or something like that? Because a lot of times when people get up to levels 4 and 5, then it's kind of hard to think of something to do, and they have a little difficulty with that. So I work on that.
Help them out. Yep.
And I want to jump back to your very first question about bringing in new members. One of the things that we're doing that apparently not every club is doing, we respond to our Find a Club emails.
There you go. That's a very good thing.
Because
That should
we
be
get people
responded to within minutes.
Yeah, well, as much as possible.
I get
But
that.
the
But I mean,
idea being is that we've had a number of people who said, well, I've tried to contact some other clubs and they haven't answered me back.
there you go. I'm going to ask my last question, but I know I've got the red light, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. This is a rhetorical question to everybody. What are the parallels between Toastmasters and your professional goals and or successes? Thank you, everybody, for listening to our membership growth and retention discussion. I am now going to turn it over to our next moderator, and that would be Michelle. Right? Correct?
Wow. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for
Oh,
joining
Makita.
tonight. Thank
I'm
you for
sorry.
your excitement. And this next session is going to be on education and training. I think it's a great segue in what Samantha and Alex were sharing regarding training, etc. So we have experienced Toastmasters on the call. In case someone listens to this later, the education, the training is, I would say, a critical part of what we do in Toastmasters. And we probably generate as Toastmasters, and probably Toastmasters International generates much education that we all know there's a plethora of education out there, but it's key on how it's delivered. So this, of course, takes into the training for your officers, and not just your officers, because it's open to the club, Toastmasters guests overall. But this is really focused on the supporting all clubs to achieve excellence portion of the district mission. And some of the ideas that we have and want to continue would be the speaker to trainer workshops. Instead of doing it once a year, to where we are encouraging folks that love to do training, are experienced in training, and just want to find out what it's all about, to come and learn how we do the training in the TLIs, Toastmasters Leadership Institute, as well as what it looks like, what it entails. Instead of just doing that once a year at the beginning of the Toastmasters year to get a book or a list of trainers, if you will, encouraging to do that at least once again before the end of the year. So do it twice a year so that we can have a running list, if you will, or experienced trainers that we can literally plug and play. So it's not just dependent on the same 5 people for the entire year, right? And so it's one of the things that we encourage to continue, as well as, and I think we've mentioned this a couple of times, or a couple of years in essence, in updating the president, the VP of Ed, and secretary training modules, which are the base camp managers. They are responsible, those roles are responsible for making changes in pathways and in the base camp. And we know there's a foundational education that is provided, or modules that are provided from Toastmasters International. And so encouragement to really look at how can we get creative and innovative and not only give the foundational education that's provided by TI, but expand on that in a sense, to where we make it something that not necessarily unique, but that draws officers, draws individuals to want to take the education. We'd like to look at or recommend a subcommittee to put together a process book. How many of you are familiar with a process book? Yes. My technical folks, the discipline, yes, very familiar with the process book. I don't know that we necessarily have a formal one. I know each successive program quality director, if you will, comes in, and there is some information that is available. There's information, of course, in TLI. But it might be a good idea to put together a process book that we can pass on to successive PQDs and their committees or TLI chairs for roles and responsibilities. One of the highlights that we really want to focus on and suggest are videos on demand, doing that training on demand. What a classic idea to incorporate, especially for our, I'll say, millennial or younger generation that are coming into the workforce. Y'all, and I got to tell you this because I work for Microsoft, and we do training year round, always something new, always something innovative. And we get it in these snippets, right? So there's training, there's exciting ways of looking at security, which, you know, that could be like, but it's done in a very fun way, a humorous way, but it gets the message across. What if we, as a district, had training on demand to where I love the video that our, now DD and the not education chair Why is her name escaping me? The Indiana Jones. You know who I'm talking
French
about.
chair, Crystal.
Thank you.
Crystal.
Thank you. Because Samantha was a part of that as well. That was so fun to watch that. And when you kept adding people, it's like, oh my goodness, it got the message across, but in a fun way. Why can't we create that for training? I'm just putting that out there, just planting a seed, just saying. So creative minds, innovative minds, hit up that QR code, scan it, put in your name, and join the Education and Training Committee. We also look at best practices by role. I think it's great to include that in the processes as well. And then how can you help? Next slide. Yes, Kelsey, question. I saw you want to ask a question. Please go ahead.
I put it in the chat saying we can come
You
back
get-
to it because I want to focus on what you're saying right now.
Okay.
I just didn't want to forget the question.
Okay.
You go ahead. We can come back to that one later.
Okay. No, this was the main thing. I mean, I'm getting to the part of the question and answer and just the discussion, the open forum. And really, here are just snippets of creative, innovative ways on how we can do education and training. Do via live, obviously the way we do it, but have it to where we could look at it when we want to, when we have the time, do it on demand, and perhaps set up a process to where officers could get credit if they look at that, that training. I know I'm going out there and I may be stretching it, but there has to be ways. I'm sure there are ways to support an electronic effort in that respect. So Kelsey, let's get to your question. 4 people on this call who are not current as of those for our previous estimate. What can we do to get the rest of the district more engaged with the SPC? Okay, so this
And
is in general. This is in general.
That is in general, but
Okay.
also I can relate it to what we're talking about here as the person who originated the education and training plan that you're speaking on right now. I'm a former member of the committee. I helped write this section. It was
Yep.
one of my projects to do last year to get some of the stuff that you detailed for this year done. And the reason it didn't get done is number one, life. Sometimes life happens, right? But number two, I was taking on too many Toastmasters roles at one time and not being able to get all of the things done for all of the roles that I had taken on. So one of the things that I'm doing is minimizing my commitments so that I can commit fully to the thing that I say yes to, instead of saying yes to 3 things and only being able to do each of them halfway.
Yeah.
But if I'm pulling back, that's 2 other positions that I would normally fill that have to be filled by somebody else. And this committee is new, and I'm already feeling like interest and participation is waning instead of continuing to grow. So I think what I put in the chat, the general question about how to get more people involved relates to everything that you're talking about here. One of the things we did to combat that was to add additional members to the committee. And I think the plan is to do that again next year, but we have to start prioritizing some of our projects maybe and saying this is the one we'll get done this year. Maybe.
No, I appreciate your comments, Kelsey. And we have a lot of ideas. We don't necessarily have the bodies to go execute. And you are absolutely right. I think that's the nail on the head that says we just need to get more people involved. And so that's the reason I early on said, scan the QR code, sign up, come join the Education and Training Committee. Let's divide and conquer. And if we decide as a group, we're going to focus on, perhaps it's the process book or it's the videos on demand. Maybe we can sub that out to different committee members, etc. Get
no
one,
idea.
maybe 2. Jody, you're signing up. Are you signing up, Jody?
I'm sorry, I had a distraction here.
Oh,
actually, to tell you the truth, I've volunteered for ever since this committee has existed. I've said, I'll be
Really?
on a subcommittee, but do I ever hear from
We-
For
anybody?
education and training?
No, no,
Oh.
no, for anything, but
Yeah.
I haven't heard,
We will-
so I've just figured that, you're too busy being the SPC right now to worry about extra people.
No, not at all.
I will say, Jody, I've got you on my list and I will be, I will be calling you for sure.
Thank you. Diana, were you raising your hand?
I find that to be true too.
Mhm.
I finally did at the end of this last semester year, meet with the committee head and put some notes down, but I never felt like, and I've signed up to be on the subcommittee 2 other times and didn't get, but I think Kelsey is exactly right. We talk and we
Mhm.
talk, need to pick, one project per
Okay.
committee or
Yep.
something and make it happen for people to believe that, are we doing too many pie in the sky things and not getting
Yeah.
down to the things that could really impact,
I think that it definitely is. We want to be realistic. I think talking about the different ideas are good, and then trying to determine how much time we have, how many people we have to accomplish and prioritize what are the things we want to accomplish this year versus we move certain things to the following year. But yes, so we need to move on to Michelle, but before we do that, Jody and Diana, I promise you will be hearing from me.
we wanted to happen.
Well, I'm not going to speak for Diana because she's a member of so many other clubs, but I'm a member of one club, okay? And I am retired. Do you
Yeah.
know what that means? I don't go to work every day.
Time.
She
You have
has time.
I have time.
Jody, ENT. Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you.
Passing on to Michelle
Passing on
for
to Michelle.
revenue and funding.
I know, and everyone wants to think that revenue and funding is fun, right? So you see, there's a solo photo there. So you know that there is opportunity to click that QR code and join me on the next slide, please, Bobby. An adventure to be treasured with revenue and funding. Now you might be wondering, why did they bring her on the committee to talk about this? The one thing that I want to point out is one of the fundamental building blocks to a successful district happens to be revenue management, because you can't do the stuff and things, to quote our outgoing district director, and you can't do the fun things, and you can't have longevity if you're broke, right? You can't do it if you're broke. So revenue management is definitely a building block that we want to make sure that District 25 has a strong foundation in. So how do I propose we do that as part of the SPC adventure? Marquita called it a process book. I call it a playbook, because revenue is fun. Money is fun. And so my playbook is going to be a District 25 finance playbook and give you all of the fundamental essentials so that any individual, regardless of whether or not they've taken an accounting class, just balance their checkbook, or know what dollars and cents are, can help this district be financially successful. In addition to that, we would create a roadmap to accompany this playbook to be for success. Now, when do we start this? Well, let's start now. I'm about to begin my second and final term as a District 25 Finance Manager. So 7-1 begins my next ride, and I want each and every one of you to think about being a part of it. Again, that QR code that you've seen floating throughout the presentation is one way for you to sign up, you show your interest in some revenue and fun, and we can make this a successful adventure together. So if you flip to the next slide, it's Q&A time with me. What you got?
Well, I guess I'll ask a question.
Okay.
So I know we've talked about a lot of different ways to raise money through raffles and such like that. Have
Yes.
we looked into maintaining, how far we can stretch it due to our nonprofit
Our
status?
nonprofit status.
Yeah, and what Toastmasters International will allow from their level as things that we can actually collect revenue on, and then how that actually relates and is recorded in the upcoming budget that will be done in the next couple of months.
That's a great question, Chris, and I'll answer it twofold. One is yes, I have continued to explore with TI what we can and can't do. It's a very slippery slope when it comes to that nonprofit status, because we want to make sure that we don't do anything that's going to threaten that when get our hands slapped or get us, well, forget hand slap, just get slapped in general from TI. So I have continued to make inquiries and follow some of the like talks with district, with TI up in Colorado. But the flip side of that is no, I have not yet given that how I would roll that into the 2024, 2025 budget, but it is something that I want to put as part of the playbook as we consider constantly have to continue that consideration and how we might be able to, maybe not in this upcoming year's budget, but in budgets to come, use that as a proper revenue source.
Thank you.
Of course. Yeah, Diana.
I know I've mentioned this before. Do you think we should have a web page that we keep monthly or quarterly, or reports, the profit and loss statements for people to see where we stand, to make it real,
I have absolutely no opposition to having a page where this is available, but I will say that it might not be updated monthly because of the time it takes
right.
for us to get all of our reporting done, either getting that from TI so that the district team can do their thing, but absolutely could look into that from a quarterly perspective, since we have to file our quarterly reporting with TI. So those reports are part of what I do from an analytical standpoint to write that commentary. So all of that can be packaged, but I would not be committing to a monthly basis, but I would definitely consider quarterly.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I said quarterly. Yeah, I just think it'd be a good idea.
I love that Joyce has some ideas that I definitely want to make sure we discuss, even though she's in mute jail right now, which I think is. All right. Well, in the interim, I'll just sign off and say that please consider spending some time in revenue and revenue management with me over the course of the next 12 months. I would love to have you as part of the ride, whether it's as a subcommittee member or just a good old-fashioned consultant, because everybody's ideas are important and they also should be heard. I'll now turn it back over to Bobby, who's going to close it out with the open forum.
Got to unmute myself here. Thank you, Michelle and Charlie and John and Alex and Marquita, Samantha. I think I remembered everyone. And I really appreciate you, Chris and Jody and Diana and Joyce. Even though we can't hear you, we hear you. So we appreciate all of your feedback today. So the last 10 minutes here, we're just going to what questions or discussion that we want to have for the last 10 minutes and it can be continuation of things that we've already talked about, or it can be new things. We just wanted to make sure there was plenty of time for each of you to provide feedback, ask questions, and for us to have an open dialogue. I have on my list, so Joyce did provide a very nice suggestion. She spent a lot of time with a funding idea. And you can tell she spent a lot of time putting it together and thought. And so definitely we'll gotten that over to Michelle, and Michelle be looking through that. We'll be looking and talking with you on that, Joyce. I know you're not around or can't talk openly right now with us, but we will reach out to you separately to talk through that and see how that could fit potentially into the committee itself, to try to get some life under that. And Joyce is smiling, so that's always a good thing. See from the chat. And Jody, Diana, definitely appreciate y'all, and you, Chris, just for your knowledge and being past district directors and the guidance that you bring us. And Jody, I will call you before Saturday. Is that okay?
Okay. Don't forget, I'm going to Weatherford in the morning.
Okay. I'll call you no later than Saturday. How's that?
Okay.
All right. And I'll get with you as well, Diana. And then Chris, I just can't get away from Chris because I see him all the time, but
I'm a perfectionist.
So let's use
it's all these old Division G troublemakers that are still hanging around, right?
Yes.
I love it.
So let's just open it up. What other things here have we not covered, not talked about enough? We've got a few minutes here.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
All right. Explain to me the increase in size of the strategic planning committee.
So we've put a lot of thought into that, and our thought was to provide to have more people really, and to try to divide out some of the things more. For one, if I step back for a second, and I think Kelsey touched on this, one thing happens is, just kind of being transparent, is we get involved in different things. Maybe we're participating or we volunteered for more than one role, and maybe not have as much time to commit. And so we felt having a couple of extra people would help us along that journey of making sure we have enough people to divide out the work and pursue the different categories and give it the proper amount of time and effort. Now we'll obviously reassess at the end of towards next year to see how that has gone. Obviously that can stay the same. It could go back down, it could go up, but we'll see how that goes. But yeah, we gave it a lot of thought. We'll just and we'll see how that goes, and definitely try to make the right decision as a committee on going forward of what the size of it should be.
Another question for you. Has there been any thought or discussion about creating a district procedures document? Mm-hmm.
I think Kelsey has her hand.
I rolled off the SPC and rolled into the policy and procedures chair position this year specifically to put that into action.
Yeah, we talked about it last year, I think.
Yeah, the person who was in it this year had a whole lot of life happen and didn't really make any progress, unfortunately.
And Kelsey, that's another one though. Don't think you can solve the whole world. Focus in on some key thing. I mean, you're smart, don't get me wrong, but sometimes we think, oh, we can do all this and get down to detail. And sometimes it's, it needs to be a little higher level and
we will have something by the end of the 2024-2025 year. And as long as we get started, we can make it better every year thereafter.
Mm-hmm.
So
the key thing though is passing it on that somebody cares to keep it going.
Yeah.
It just takes 1 year that they say, oh, that's not really important to me. And then it's lost.
So Bobby, I have a question for Emily and for Marquita as the outgoing district director and the current IPDD. So I'm curious as to how you felt in your time as district director, or even your time in the trio, since both of you have seen multiple iterations of the plan. How do you think the plan has helped you, or has it helped you? And are there ways that we can engage, the committee can engage with a trio differently in order to make it more of an advisory board than just an action reaction board?
So for me, for this year, the document is still a very beginning generic document. There isn't a lot of specific stuff in it. And so there isn't as much in terms of actual practical implementable advice and guidance at this point. There is a lot of things that are going to be really great once they're fleshed out, but we're still trying to flesh that out. I can see the potential in just about everything in the document. However, when I go to try to use it, it's things like make sure that you talk about marketing. Okay, but how am I supposed to assess what part of marketing I need to be talking about? And so it's a little bit more of that kind of depth, but I know that we're working on that. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing is working on getting those, now that we have all those different parts, is getting those more specifics and more specific guidance. And so I still think the document and the team and the SBC are going to be great. I just think it still needs a couple of years to continue to do that work and grow.
Okay. Anything from you, Martina?
Sure. Can you hear me? Let me
Yeah,
make sure
we can
I'm
hear you.
off mute. Yeah. At the time I was in the seat, I felt there was good information, good ideas, good advice. It's still evolving, right? So I felt like the SPC itself was still evolving, and considering the individuals that were part of it, yes, I could go to as the district leader and say, hey, how do you do, what are your thoughts on, XYZ? So it was more of an advisory board in that sense. If I had something, going on, I knew who I could go to have conversations with, right? I think as it continues to evolve, I'm with Emily on that, in that when we get the process book, the playbook for revenue and funding, I think that's going to be really effective for leaders in the future. So I'm happy to be a part of putting pen to paper, so to speak, or electronic, however you want to describe that. So we have actual deliverables that are living documents that can be leveraged by the leaders going forward.
Okay.
My 2 cents.
Thanks. Thanks to you both. Thanks, Bobby.
I have
So-
another question. Is the term, was it process document? Is that an actual thing, or is that just a term, generic
The
term?
process.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I stepped on you, Jody. A process
okay.
book. Yeah,
Process book.
it's actually. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, it is an actual book that you put descriptions of, here are the roles, here are the responsibilities, here are the expectations, etc. So you actually, it's akin to what you mentioned, the district book. It's akin to that. How do you run that particular section, if you will? So it can be very germane to a specific organization, a specific event, if you will. So just like we put the books together for the events, and we have this person will say this is how it looks, or we put together the script for the contests along that same line. It's
Just
a guide.
I know that we've had things that we do try to hand off from one year to the next, from one chair to the next. And sometimes it seems to work okay. And then other times it seems like whoever the new whatever chair is says, well, I'm going to do it my way.
Yeah.
Real
And
quick,
that
we can
seems to
continue.
be Well, I just know, and maybe not this past year, I don't know. I'm not been really in on what's been going on lately, but I know that used to be a real problem with the conferences.
Yeah.
Is that, you know,
Just real quick, we can continue the conversation. Like we said, we'll stick around a few minutes, but I did want to be respectful of everyone's time. It is now actually 7:31, so we're now officially concluded, but we can continue talking, kind of like in our Toastmasters fashion. So,
Do you want me to stop the recording now or wait until all conversation is done?
yeah, I would go ahead and stop it now.